Hello, welcome. Dr. Sushma Singh this side. Today in Unit 23, WTO, GATT, GATS, Capital and Human Flows. We are going to start lecture with the topic Implications for Health and Education. GATS has several implications for various aspects of social development, especially in the health and education sector. The first is health. The health sector has a high degree of government involvement in the developing countries, as it is an area of immediate social concern. Progressive liberalization of this sector has both benefits and problems. For example, when one looks at the prospect of cross-border exports of the health services, it is pointed out that through telemedicine and the health care provider can serve the need of the remote and unserved segment of population. However, it may address the need of selected segment only in view of the prevalent digital divide within the country itself. Following the consumption abroad mode, the developing countries can generate foreign exchange by providing healthcare services to other countries. However, there may be a contradiction. High quality service may be exported while low quality is produced for local market. Through commercial presence, the developing countries can generate additional resources for healthcare services, generate employment opportunities, reverse the brain drain, reduce the burden on government, etc. However, such a possibility would need large foreign direct investment in the health sector. As the dual system emerges, better qualified doctors will flow from the public to the corporate sector. Under the movement of natural person, the source country can get more remittances, upgrade skills and standards, and promote exchange of knowledge among health professions as providers of services. The host country, on the other hand, can meet shortages and improve quality by getting service from the providers. However, permanent outflow adversely affect the equity and quality of the health services in the source countries. Indeed, the bulk of cross-border flows of healthcare professionals take the form of permanent migration. An estimated 10,000 health professionals immigrated from South Africa between 1989 and 1997. Again, a dark side of this human flow from the source country's point of view is that it imposes high cost, leads to shortage of trained manpower and loss of public resources. One study estimated that South Africa lost 67.8 billion rand in human capital investment in healthcare sector in 1997. A loss only partly offset by the remittances arises from such outflow. The second point is education. In recent years, the processes of commercialization of higher education and foreign collaboration therein have increased. The GATS commitment to education services had both positive and negative sides. These sides are more or less similar to those of health services. GATS, according to Assault, is a charter of rights for corporations which restricts the right of governments to regulate, guarantees the transnational education providers the right to both operate and receive government funding. Critics also point out that the corporate world has found in WTO a forum to push their corporate agendas. onto the unaware and unwilling countries and people without any democratic accountability. In this attack, they have discovered the possibility of manufacturing the thinking, the attitude, and the purchasing choice of their corporations, consumers, and workers. Corporations have seen prospects in the deregulating education sector. In 1996, the US provided export of education and training services that reached $8.2 billion with a trade surplus of some $7 billion. With the phenomenal expansion of ICTs, new models of commercialization are added to education. There have emerged ruthless processes contributing to the harmonization of educational standards, decline in the uniqueness of educational institutions, elimination of cultural focus, thought, and educational themes. With corporate controlled education, the security of an educational institution will disappear as it loses out to big merger deals and high stakes investments. In fact, the very ideal of education will change. No longer will truth be sought, but rather whatever suits the interests of the multinationals. Especially in developing countries, education has a social concern. Governments subsidized education to meet the national goal, as subsidized education is a barrier to free trade. Government controls are minimized on education through GATS. Government may be forced to allow private companies to issue accredited diplomas even if there is little control over what is being taught by these private institutions. But perhaps more disturbing is the potential for education to increasingly serve only as a corporate trained ground, rather than encouraging critical inquiry and other democratically agreed upon ends. There is a strong feeling that GATS negotiations would serve the interests of the industrial lobby by imposing unequal bargaining power among the developed and the developing nations. Educational institutions and their sources have been treated as national and social services. In fact, dissemination of knowledge, creation of knowledge, and service to community are three tasks performed by educational institutions for nation building. The presence of foreign institutions would undermine this task by converting education into a commodity and by altering the content of education in terms of the market need. Now let us conclude the unit. In this unit, we must have seen the linkage between the social development, globalization, and trade agreements. It is clear from the discussion in this unit that there are several issues which are of great concern for the developing countries, especially from the viewpoint of their sovereignty and cultural specificity. The concern has also been doubtly compounded with the apprehension that WTO has been virtually taken over by the MNCs. The states in the developing countries are having several social and political commitments. One of is not so sure that all these commitments and obligations would be fulfilled under the WTO regime. Perhaps we have to observe the functioning of WTO more vigilantly than ever to safeguard sovereignty. Here we have come to the end of the lecture as well as unit. Thanks for listening.